Hello, everyone. Welcome to Masters in Travel. Whitney here. Today, with me to talk about how to think critically about hotels and experiences and service providers when coming home from a fam or a personal trip is Maddie from Steuber Travel Group. Maddie, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Whitney.
So, we just got back from a really incredible fam with Ultimate Jet Vacations and More Collection. And while we were there, we were having this really lovely conversation that I thought we should bring onto the pod and continue the conversation.
Okay.
So we were chatting about everything that we learn when we are. It could be a fan, but it could also be a personal trip. Same, and visiting properties and experiencing different tour providers and transportation providers and all the things that one of our pet peeves, I believe you would also describe it as a pet peeve, is when we are speaking with other travel advisors or when we are in a group setting, like in a group forum or a Facebook group, when we see communication as it pertains to the best of something or the worst of something, or you should always do this or you should never do that. And I throughout our trip, I just kind of came to quip it as enough with the superlatives. Like none of that, because without context, these superlatives just don't make a lot of sense. So let's dive in a little bit to talk. Share with me your side of this pet peeve and how
Yeah.
we started to feel so passionate about this. And then we can dive into a little bit more of what we can do in lieu of using so many superlatives.
Yeah. Well, I think it's oftentimes when we are just starting in this industry or growing in this industry, we think our clients want to tell them what the answer is. We must go here. We must do this. This is a do not miss. And to some degree, I think that can be true. Like, should you go to Paris and miss the Eiffel Tower in some capacity? Probably not. But when it comes to hotel
I don't even know
accommodation,
how you would do that. Like, do you like go and close your eyes?
probably. Um, I I think where my particular pet peeve or passion for the way that we approach this came from is we're really in the business of matching, and that's what I think
Yes.
value of an advisor is. And when we start saying things like, I would never sell insert hotel. Now, granted, something in the three-star category where our relationships aren't as strong or it's not where we've, spent our time, I appreciate that perspective. But once we get to the 4 and 5 star level, I think everything above that threshold, it's really about matching and what your client needs for that particular trip. I've had clients who've gone, one end of the spectrum for a couple of trips and then other trips their kids and their kids' friends are coming and they're not going to that same degree.
Yep.
And so I need to be knowledgeable in all of those areas in order to
Yep.
best serve them. I
Yeah.
think
No, I think
other
that's, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, you onwards.
I think that that's a really good, like, tangible example of like when I hear someone saying, well, this is the best hotel in London or this is the best hotel in Cape Town. And my thought immediately, whenever I hear something like that, is always like, for who?
Yeah.
Because uh, and I think that that's my gut reaction because anytime I hear someone saying this is the best hotel in whatever city, my first thought is always like, but I don't want to stay there. Like
Yeah.
that's not the best for me. So if
Yeah.
it's not the best for me, it's probably not the best for someone else. So who is the best for who? And based on what parameters and what does the best mean? Like what are we talking about here? Are we talking I think here's where we start to get into the weeds, like the best service, the best
Yeah.
location, the best views, the best food, the biggest rooms, like the best what I think is always kind of like I'm looking for like that added context. And so when it is the best period, that's where I start to feel like a little passionate.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say both our passion is coming through on this podcast. But you hit on something there that I think is really important that I talk about with our team all the time. And I've been really like hitting this nail more and more lately. Based on what sample size also? How many
Mhm.
times do we have repeated feedback of X degree or Y degree? And I always like on the flip side, whenever I'm talking with fellow advisors about things, I do try to qualify like I sent last year to South Africa 20 blah 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 clients. Or and this I've sent people this number of times to this hotel and this is how much feedback I have on this hotel and that's why based on my personal experience, my client experience, I think why. Whereas other areas of the world I'm not as knowledgeable about and maybe I only have a sample size of 1 or 2. And so I
Mhm,
think it's a matter of qualifying the feedback so that we can
mhm.
match to the best of our ability.
I think in a perfect world, I wish that all feedback or sharing about an experience, a DMC, a cruise, a tour, a hotel, like whatever it is, that we here's that we're never using superlatives. I see what I did there. And we're rather talking about this hotel is great for clients who are looking for this. This hotel is not great if you're looking for XYZ. This cruise is fabulous if you want this. But if you want this other cruise might be better. I think this is the type of feedback or the type of conversation that I'm craving and that I wish that I saw more of um, in Facebook groups, on the Hive, in conversation while we're going around. Like in Cape Town, we did 5 or 6 site inspections, 5, I think,
Mhm.
4, I don't even remember. But none of us were talking like at the end of all of our site inspections, we didn't sit down and be like, well, that was the best one. We didn't really need to see those other 3.
Yeah, yeah,
That
I
that
think that
absolutely was not our feedback.
yeah, and
We were
it's so funny that Cape Town was such a great example of, like, what I felt in other major cities as well, like, what I felt in Paris and what I felt in London. It's like, once you're above that threshold, right, of 4 and 5-star service, everything meets most of the check boxes that we have to some degree. The next
Mhm.
thing is really taking the information you know about your client and saying, "I would send them here, but not here." And then it's client driven matching, not, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
accept.
Yes. And I think that for advisors who do feel like, no, I send all of my clients to this hotel in Cape Town, or I send all my clients to this hotel in Paris, whatever the city is, then my assumption is that all of your clients are fairly similar.
Yeah,
And
which is
that might actually be
mhm,
true, and that's totally okay. And so then it's more, I think that all we can do is kind of shift the conversation a little bit and say, well, my clients in general are of a certain demographic, of a certain are looking to spend a certain amount, or they have certain expectations. And this particular hotel in Cape Town or in Paris or in Rome really fits for my average client profile who are all looking for this. That makes a lot of sense. And I can totally understand why one advisor is always selling one particular hotel. But for us, I think my clients are very different. I
yeah,
am working with like a full spectrum of um, priorities. I'm working with the full spectrum of travel experience. I'm working with the full spectrum of budgets. And so that's why I very rarely have one go-to property in a city. I generally have like 5 or 6 of like, well, who are we working with on this one?
yeah. I think it's interesting too because when I've done FAMs previously, I've told our in-house team at STG and our ICs, I'll always make sure I see a 4-star and a 5-star. And I
Mhm.
think that even within a single given trip, Africa is a great example. Sometimes I will have clients start 4-star so that we can invest in their 5-star safari lodge because that's the most important piece of the trip. Or in Italy, I have a hotel in Venice, I won't name on this podcast. It's not my favorite, but it prices really well. The location is solid. It needs a little bit of client management, but it allows me to invest in a nicer property when they get to their Tuscany portion. And the Borgo is so important because it's where they're spending most of their days. So I
Yeah.
think
Mhm.
within a trip, I feel what I guess what I'm saying is I second what you're saying because I feel it even on like an individual trip basis, not just between client segments as well.
So let's try to put this into practice a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think like if I would love to know what your sentence would be, but as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I would love if like when you ask people about hotels, instead of saying like what did you think or like what is the best, if the question would be like, who do you love this hotel for? And people can
Mm.
say, well, I love this hotel for X, but I love this hotel for Y, and I love this hotel for Z. What sentence would you like if there was like a fill in the blank sentence? Would you use a different sentence?
No, I think that's perfect. I think, like, even you and I were naturally doing this when we were walking
We
through the
were,
Belmont
yeah. Mhm,
Nelson, because I had booked clients there, and I was kind of second guessing myself based on what I knew of them. They were palace hotel lovers in Paris, and as I was walking through, I was like, "I think this is right." And then when we got to the silo, just how trendy and vibrant and kind of fun and, like, a little bit artsy, just like New York is, and they're from New York.
mhm,
I was going, "Oh my goodness, was this a miss? Did I miss on
mhm,
this?" And then I
mhm,
re-reviewed
mhm.
my notes on them and was like, "No, the Belmont Mount Nelson is good for, as you just said, X type of client, and they are
Yeah.
X type of client."
So let's put this into practice. In Cape Town, we saw Cape Cadogan, Belmont, Mount Nelson, the Silo, and the one and only.
Yep.
Are those all the ones that we saw?
We drove by a couple others, which I also recommend for advisors, like, if you can't do sites at all of them, I love a quick, like, acclimate myself with where they are. So, we saw Camisa House, and then we passed Apostles as well, and then
Mhm.
you and I did a couple on the garden route from group bus. But yes, those were the ones for Cape Town.
Okay, so who or what do you love about each of these properties, and how would you differentiate them? If someone came to you and they were like, "Which hotel did you like in Cape Town?"
Yeah. So, let's start with Mount Nelson, the Belmont. I think
Sure,
this is a
sure.
timeless timeless classic, a traditional classic. It's got lots of pockets of activations and common spaces. It's known for its traditional tea, its pink color, fantastic location. It's kind of like an oasis in the heart of the city. It's got a really unique shipping history. And so, am I sending a honeymoon couple who's trying to meet a budget, and they really want to invest in their safari, and maybe they're a little like trendy and they don't care about spending as much time in the room? Am I sending them to the Mount Nelson? Probably not. Am I sending that sophisticated couple who's really well traveled, who likes palace hotels in Paris, who's familiar with the Belmont brand? Yes, I probably am sending them to that property. But I'm curious, what do you think? How did you register it?
So I love that hotel for like an extended stay in Cape Town, I
Mm,
think.
mhm, mhm.
So a lot of extended stays might come during festive, or if it's just a longer than average trip. I think I love the Mount Nelson for guests who are going to spend time on property, because just like you said, there are like little pockets of activation is a perfect way to describe it, from the bars to the restaurants to the little outdoor area by the fountain to
Mm.
the swimming pool to like the beautiful landscaping and like there's just like all these little areas that you can just kind of like hang out in and like have a coffee or have a drink or have a meal. And so I love that property for guests who are going to enjoy all of that.
Yes.
So if it's a quick in and out of Cape Town, that might be lost on them, if they don't really get to enjoy all of that. I also love that property for guests who are going to sit in that courtyard by the fountain and actually enjoy a drink and like enjoy that ambiance. Not all of my clients will just like sit and relax with a drink. Like some of my clients are like, we gotta go. What are we doing this afternoon? Who's picking me up? What are we doing? And like, I don't think that, again, I feel like that beautiful property is lost on a client like that. And so
No.
I'm just thinking, I'm just like kind of running through my Rolodex of clients of like different personality types. Um, and I love Mount Nelson for clients who are really going to appreciate the history that comes with that property.
I completely agree, and even as you're talking, I'm thinking about, like, my foodie clients who have their list, and they take our list, and they take their list, and they are on a mission. They wanna see the bars, they wanna see the restaurants. Again, all of those outlets that are right there on property are kind of lost on them, and when we're talking about this, the other thing I think is really important, in our role as travel advisors is, the clients are trusting us to spend their money. And so if
Mhm,
the budget is fixed at a certain rate and you and I feel it would be better allocated towards another portion of the trip, maybe the winelands is the most important part to them. Those are other things that I think come up when I start thinking about matching people. Should we do
mhm.
Cape Cadogan next? Cadogan,
Ye
Cadogan.
So, just so that everyone listening understands, we asked every single person in Cape Town how to pronounce Cape Cadogan, Cape Cadogan, Cape Cadogan, including the general manager, including the sales representative. We literally asked everyone, and they all gave us different answers. So we're gonna go with Cape Cadogan because I think that's what we landed on, but we don't
It's
actually
the correct
know.
one.
So full disclosure, Cape Cadogan is the property that I sell the most.
Same.
I feel that it ticks the boxes for most of my clients. I would never tell anyone that it is the best option in Cape Town because I don't believe in expressing things in that way, but it is the property that I sell the most of for my clients.
Yeah, I think as a brand, like, I love the More collection. I love everything that they stand for. We got to spend a lot of time with Miguel. We heard some incredible stories of like the way the owner championed them through the pandemic. And I always those things really hit my clients and hit their hearts and they care about that piece. And so it is a part of our discussion when we're thinking about how we're going to spend their money on a trip. But for me, Cape Cadogan was it had all the benefits of being this boutique, historic, beautiful gem, just steps from the Mount Nelson. So same general location, right off Kloof
Same
Street.
location.
Great for
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, great for walking to dinner. I loved the spaciousness of the rooms. I loved the amenities in the bathroom. I loved the breakfast. It was probably my favorite breakfast I've ever had
Mhm. Same.
in South Africa in general. Um, but then in a similar way to Mount Nelson, it did have little pockets and little areas where you could, go to the honor bar in the common space in the lobby area and have a drink at night, and you could sneak off to the beautiful window breakfast room and maybe play chess in the afternoon. And the pools that were there were again little like tucked away gems. So it embodied
Mhm.
everything boutique for me,
Yeah.
and I just also love the collection as well.
Yeah. So I love that it is boutique in nature. It feels very like someone is welcoming you into their home. Like the service and
Mhm.
the staff is just very friendly and very welcoming. They know your name from the first time that you arrive through your stay. I love it for folks who are really going to appreciate that honor bar approach of just like after a long day, before you go freshen up for dinner, have a seat, have a little snack and a drink, and then go on and get ready for dinner and be on your way for the night. Like there is a restaurant, but it's separate. It actually feels very separate. It is physically separate. And so I love it for clients who are really going to like want to go out for dinners in different places. With that said, the dinner we had there was one of the best meals we had in our entire trip.
I
And so for me, like I would describe myself as a foodie and but I don't care where I have good food. And so for me it was just like I love that I'm having one of the best meals of the trip essentially at my hotel. Like I didn't have to leave and get in a taxi or go anywhere. And so I love Cape Cadogan for clients who are looking for a really, really great meal, but they're not looking necessarily to like get in a taxi and go 25 minutes to the other side of the city for a restaurant that is hard to get into. You know what I mean? Like they're just looking for a really great meal. So I love it for that. And I love it for just like the boutique nature. I describe Cape Cadogan as one of those places that is like it has every single thing you need and nothing above and beyond because it's not necessary, right? Like it's not this overabundant, over the top kind of luxury. It literally ticks all the boxes of everything that you need, including the location, including the price point, including the service. And but it's not but I love it for people who are like, we're here to see Cape Town. So we want a comfortable hotel and we're going to spend a little bit of time here, but we're not looking to like spend a ton of time on property. We want to be out in the city and exploring Cape Town. So I love it for that type of client.
Completely agree. And I felt like the service knew that. Like they know who their clients were every day. It was a personal greeting, like have fun on your Table Mountain tour, enjoy your day with Sully. Like there was this, they were working very in tandem, which was awesome. The boutique, like you
Hmm.
said, I think nailed it. Should
Yep.
we talk about the silo in sharp
Who do you love
contrast?
this silo for? I think the silo's
I
my uh, is it my personal favorite? Oh, I'm still on the fence. I wasn't sure what I was gonna think of the silo because I've seen photos of it, obviously,
Mhm.
seen all the bathtub photos, heard a lot about it, but I wasn't really sure like what I was gonna think when I actually got there. So who do you love the silo for?
I mean, similar to what I said about Cape Cadogan, like, the Royal Collection, I have a lot of, again, respect for. I think the way that that
Mhm,
portfolio is
mhm.
run is really special, and again, it pops up in our conversations with clients. I think about the location being completely different than where, Mount Nelson and Cape
Yes.
Cadogan are situated. So we're closer to the waterfront. And then in terms of who I think of when I think about clients I'd send there, a lot of times it comes up for me is like people who have a real appreciation for art or
Mhm,
film or just like art as any sort of medium, because all the mediums that are used in their collection range. And then I think about kind of what a icon it is, how trendy it is. The rooftop pool is incredible. The
mhm,
rooftop bar, they divide the bar so that guests only have in-house guests get access to a part of the rooftop that not other general public people have access to, which I think is the correct way to do that. Um, the food and beverage outlets are incredible. We had a really fun cocktail when we were there. And then the rooms are really like loud with color and design in a fun way, which I think is pretty consistent through the Royal Portfolio collection, the interior design. So I'm thinking of clients that love art. I'm thinking of some of my clients who live in major cities. And then I'm thinking of some of my clients who have a real appreciation for architecture, interior
mhm.
design, and who appreciate the location.
Agreed. I think I'd say all the same things.
Amazing. Look at us.
Mhm. Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and if you I think that, on the flip side, if clients don't have, like, a specific appreciation for art and architecture, then that's kind of when the silo, like, might not be the best fit. Um, I will also add that the waterfront turned out to be some pretty fabulous shopping. I got pulled into that a little bit more than I was anticipating. I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna have, like, a quick walk through this market," and then, like, bags later and hours later, I was like, "This place is amazing." So So I think that when we consider location, both One and Only and the Silo offer a location that's a little bit closer to the waterfront in terms of shopping. And again, like a touch of an extended stay. Because if you're in Cape Town for 3 nights and you're doing a day trip to the Winelands, a day trip to the peninsula, and Table Mountain, and you're out, then and you don't have like this extra time to like really enjoy these beautiful properties and the art and or to really enjoy kind of like the shopping that might be available, then maybe it's not the best fit. But if you're interested in that and if you have the time for it, then I think these locations are really great for that.
Completely agree.
So
One and
who do you love
only.
the One and Only for?
I think our answer is the same for this one as well, which is it was a slam dunk for me for families.
Yeah.
And I think having a son has made me reevaluate all I know about travel and how I like to travel and what I need. And the selling point for me was that pool in the island in the middle of the property that felt like we were totally out of Cape Town, where if
Mhm,
I had my 2-year-old son and maybe an older son someday, I don't know, we're going in an imaginary direction right now, and they were just zonked out from that flight, and the first day needed to be dedicated towards, like, pool time, relaxing, let's get acclimated to the time zone. It was check, check, check on that
yep.
side of things. Again, lots of pockets of activation. I think just like Mount Nelson, where you could go down to the lobby bar, there was a boutique on property, there was the pool, there was the spa, there was a restaurant by the pool, which I always love now that I travel with my son. Like something that's simple and casual by the pool for lunch, and it doesn't
Mhm,
have to be a big production. Like that's
mhm.
another that I'm actively looking for in a
Yeah.
property when I'm doing my family.
Yeah, agreed. I think in addition to the pool, the rooms are huge. So
Mhm.
for a family, like the rooms are huge. So you get to really like spread out and everybody can have space and families with small children can all stay together in one room. The property's bigger, so I don't remember the specifics on connecting rooms, but I'm going to assume that's a possibility
Yeah.
just by the nature of the property. So I think that I love this property for families and I love this property for any type of client who's looking for a slower paced trip. So for a
Mhm.
client who's like, we want half day activities in the morning and then we want to come back and just relax and or like maybe walk around the city on our own, walk around the waterfront, maybe come back and have a spa appointment or hang out by the pool and have a casual lunch. Like any type of client, even if you're not a family, any type of client, I love this for a client who's looking for like a slower paced experience in Cape Town.
Completely. And again, I don't think I mentioned this when I first started talking about it, but it's by the waterfront, and they actually have a couple different modes of transportation to get to the waterfront from the hotel. I think one of them was a boat ride that's, like, right there at the base of the hotel, and then also you guys just had a short walk. So, again,
We
from, like,
walked, yeah.
ease of logistics, which is what I think families are craving, like, let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think it's
we
a
walked from One and Only Right to the area where there were shops as well as like kind of a food. Is it the Timeout Food Hall? Am I
yeah, I
making
think
that
that
up?
no, I
Yeah,
think that's
it's the Timeout Food Hall. So where there's all these different food stalls and food options, and we walked. I mean, 5 minutes. It was right there.
I love it.
Yeah.
So in summary,
Hmm.
all hotels are amazing,
All
and what
hotels are amazing for the right client profile.
yeah, and it's really about, like somebody said to me way back when I first became a travel advisor, like, "A DMC is supposed to be the expert in the area that your client is traveling to, and you are supposed to be the expert in your client." And so
Hmm.
sometimes I catch myself when I start saying, like, "You must go to this hotel." I'm like, actually, I need to reverse what I'm doing right now and listen a little bit more to what the client's saying, and then
Hmm.
take the client's preferences to drive where I'm recommending,
Yeah.
for this particular part of the trip."
And I think that the component that we haven't talked or that we haven't mentioned is the price point.
Yeah.
The 4 options that we saw during our site inspections are all gonna price. I hope I'm not totally off base here, but I don't think any of those are gonna price under $750 a night.
No. Um,
That's kind of the mark. So, the other point to all of this is that if I had had another day in Cape Town, I would have done more site inspections to see, like, what does the $500 price point look like?
yeah,
And what are at least 1, if not 2 of my preferred options for clients who have specific things that they're looking for in terms of amenities and service and location and also the price point because that is such an important contextual point. And I think that this is my other frustration when I am hearing about, all the superlatives in our favorite hotels in groups of travel advisors. It's like, well, this is the best, and you have to stay here. And it's like, but we all know that not everyone is looking to spend XYZ on a certain hotel. And so there's that additional context of if you're looking for a client who's looking for like a solid 4 star, and we all know that a 4 star in New York and a 4 star in Cape Town and a 4 star in Cusco are all going to price different. So it's not about the dollar number. It's about where those 2 points come to connect of the level of service and the price point, right? And so
completely.
in Cape Town, if we know that all the hotels that we just talked about are going to price probably from 750 to $1,500 a night, like that's the range that they're going to live in, then my question is what's pricing between four and $700 a night?
Yeah,
And what are
yeah,
those options? And then identifying one or two and be like, "Oh, okay, I love this 4 star or mid-range hotel for this client profile, and I love this mid-range hotel for this client profile." So just to take everything that we talked about and copy paste it onto that additional context of the price point as well, because this can't be forgotten. It's often a key decision maker.
it is. It takes me back to what I was saying earlier, which is like when I do fam trips, I really try to see a 4 star and a 5 star in every area. And I'll be honest, like a lot of times when I do see a 4-star, I'm thinking of property in Interlaken, I feel like I am very passionate and able to explain why the 5 stars worth it. And same on this trip. Like you and I have done safari on a lower level before and on a higher level before.
Mhm.
So to be able to speak to what the actual differences are that you're paying for, I think that's really crucial too in the
Yeah.
decision making process for your client.
I think it's that, and I also think it's understanding who the clients are who genuinely are not looking to be convinced that the 5 star is worth it, who
Completely.
genuinely want the 4 star and nothing else, and it is up to us to say, "All cards on the table, this is my favorite hotel in this city at this price point."
And yeah, here's the
Even
pros, here's
though we know that the hotel down the street that's more expensive offers a better X, Y, and Z, that's not the point because that's not what that client is looking for. So I think
completely.
your point is, I think it's both and, right? Understanding that for clients who are interested to spend a little bit more and to splurge or to invest a little bit more, being able to articulate why and
Mhm.
that it's a good value and that it's worth it. That is really that's what seeing the 4 stars help us do. And also, there are some clients that no matter what you tell them, they're flat
It
out not interested
yeah, yeah.
in that higher level service, and that is okay too.
Yep. I completely agree. And
There are so many.
I think
Go ahead.
sometimes we as advisors will maybe this is just me with imposter syndrome. I'm like, "Oh, well, I sell a lot of this in Cape Town, or I sell a lot of this in Paris, or I sell a lot of this in Venice," and it's not always the palace hotels and the five-star this, but I do sell the others. It's just to meet the clients where they're at. Sometimes in
Yep.
that city, that's where we cut to make the budget work. Um,
Yep.
because let's be honest,
That's
what people qualify or classify as luxury travel anymore is continuing to change, and that number keeps going up, but in my head, I'm still the girl that started the business in the pandemic where I'm like, $10,000 for a lot is a lot of money for a trip, and so let's meet this client where they're at with their budget.
exactly. Yeah, and there's so many times I'll be looking through different hotel options, and I'll have my 5 star client in mind, and I'll see a hotel, and I'll be like, they're gonna hate that. They're not gonna like that. They're gonna like this other one because 'cause they're looking for X, Y, and Z, and this is important to them. And then I'll look at the same hotel for a very different client, and I'll be like, "This is the
Love
one. This is the one that they want because this is what they're looking." So it's again, just to kind of bring this full circle, there's never I think what we want to say in the most succinct way possible is there's not a single product or supplier or hotel or cruise that is the best or the worst or that we always sell or that we never sell. Everything is valid and everything is good for the right client with the additional context.
Yeah, no notes, drop mic.
Maddie, thank you so much for chatting about this with me. I feel so passionate about this, and I hope that just this little nugget that we've shared of our conversations in Cape Town, I hope that we can start to see it more throughout the industry and in conversations among travel professionals because this is always what I'm trying to get at is, in Paris, which is your favorite hotel for families with small children instead of which is your favorite hotel, right? Like
Yeah,
asking those questions with a little bit more context or in Cape Town, which is your favorite hotel for honeymooners who are prioritizing their budget for the safari portion of the trip? I
yep,
think it's today we talked a lot about how we can answer the questions with more context, and maybe the flip side is how we can also ask questions that provide more context.
completely. Like, what questions are you asking in your discovery call that is allowing you to glean the information you need to glean in order to match? I mean, that's like, I think, level 2 to this whole conversation.
Well, let's give a preview to that. If you are talking to new clients, I'm just going to get you to agree to another podcast on the record. If you're talking to new clients that you've never worked with before, and we're talking about South Africa and we're talking about Cape Town, what are a couple of questions that you might ask them as you're kind of running through your Rolodex? You know the hotels in Cape
Yeah.
Town. You're kind of running through what the options are. What are a couple of questions you might ask to try to hone in on which one might be the best fit?
Well, I'll tell you where I started, which was like I used to ask the question, "Are you a boutique 4-star or 5-star?" And I've gotten away from that because clients don't
Mhm.
know what that means in the same
Agree.
way that I know what that means. And so I have said, "Tell me about some properties you've really loved. Tell me about some properties that have checked the box for a trip and did what it needed to do, but it maybe wasn't your favorite. And tell me about a property you hated." And when they give me the answers to those, I feel like immediately I'm like, okay, I have a clear understanding of where you find value. And then it's a couple follow-up questions of like, is interior design really important? Are lots of food outlets on property really important? And actually, we're doing a trip to Japan for clients right now. And the couple, they're so sweet. He said to me, he was like, "We don't care about the food outlets in Japan because there's so many amazing dining and restaurant options that like the food outlets on property are not a deal breaker for us. When we take the flight to Bora Bora for the second half of our trip, you better believe I want a property with good dining because like I don't want to be going off property all the time." Obviously, it makes sense. So
Yeah.
even within the microcosm of that trip alone, the way that they found value in 2 separate hotels was different. So, yeah, those are some of the questions that I ask.
Yep. Do clients often have a hotel, like, off the cuff that they hated that they share with you?
Our luxury super five-star clients do. They're like, "I love this, love Six Senses, did insert whatever." And that is really helpful. Our clients who are maybe, like, newer to luxury travel or, like, a hotel is just kind of, like, checking a box so that they can do some incredible touring, it's harder for them to think about a hotel they don't like, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what I ask to the budget is always in the back of my mind.
Same. Because we start to play a little bit of, like, an imaginary game when we don't. Like, I could be showing you, Borgo Santo Pietro, and we're really talking, like, a step or 2 down from that, like, Lupaya or whatever. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I agree with you, budget should be a part of that conversation as well.
It's a big part. So I think that, let's say, like, if I was able to peg, like, what I think the budget is gonna be, like, because 'cause I'm always kind of high level trying to, like, estimate what do they wanna spend, what have they shared with me that they wanna spend, where is a lot of this money gonna go, like, how the investment's gonna be allocated based on what I know about, South Africa and safaris and all this kind of thing. Then I might narrow it down to, like, okay, we're in this range of, $500 to $700 a night, so not the hotels that we are just discussing, for example. So now the options are waterfront or, kind of located, like, out of the city.
Yeah, like, I was thinking Camisa House is, like, my step down, and I
Mhm.
love Camisa House, so anybody listening, don't think it's a bad property. Again, there are no bad properties, there are only all things for the right
Who do
client.
you love it for?
I love it for a honeymooner. It's situated just past Cape Cadogan, closer to Table Mountain. It's got its own town car to take you to dinners. It's got a gorgeous pool. It's got really good service that's personalized, makes you feel like you're coming home, but it's away from the waterfront, which sometimes our honeymooners are seeking privacy and feeling like they're in a retreat kind of setting. And then sometimes when I have couples go together, because we have a group of 3 couples, I did put them close to the waterfront because they wanted to be able to walk to dinner and do some of that stuff.
So, to decide which one is best for them, it's more about, like, how they're envisioning the end of their trip in Cape Town, of, like, are you leaving the property every night to go to dinner? Are you wanting to walk around to local shops and the food hall and kind of explore a little bit on your own and have some independence? Or are you wanting to be at a property that, correct me, is Camissa House, does it have, like, really beautiful views, like, of the ocean? Because it's
Um,
kinda set, like,
it
what's the setting?
it's a little bit more tucked away, so if I don't know
Okay,
if you were in the car with me, but it was in a more residential area, and it was almost like at the cul-de-sac, so it's kind of, like, surrounded by greenery and just it really
gotcha,
feels
gotcha.
like home away from home.
Okay, okay. So then I think that kind of describing, I might describe that setting of, like, or there's another option where it feels really local. It feels like you're home away from home in Cape Town. A town car will take you into dinner, but you'll have, a bit of a drive to get there and back. I might just kind of describe like what feels like a priority to you, not telling them the names of properties, not
Yeah.
telling them the the name of the hotel that I'm thinking about, but just like describing or storytelling, like if you stay in this area, this is the experience, and if you stay here, that this is the experience, and see what lights them up and what their preference is
Yeah.
to help
Completely.
match them.
Completely. That Japan trip I was just mentioning was such a good gut check recently because they said luxury and I sent them the Brando. And I was like, oh, Maddie, you did not listen to what they said they wanted. They wanted ease of logistics, they wanted lots of dining outlets on property. And they specifically said they didn't love the idea of like eco chic style accommodation. So I guess what I'm saying too in all of this is sometimes when we don't position it the way that you just did, we start taking our own preconceived notions of what luxury is and not like forcing it on them, but like letting it drive the conversation when just a presentation of what the Brando is versus the Four Seasons Bora Bora probably could have solved that
Yeah,
issue.
I was going to say like Four Seasons luxury.
Yeah, and that's what they ended up landing on. But it was just a
Yeah,
little gut check to me on like exactly what you just portrayed. I should have done, and it probably would have had a better overall client experience.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Maddie, for diving into this with me. I love talking shop with you and just kind of bringing our conversations from the fam onto the podcast and continuing the conversation. So thank you for your time today. And I look forward to the next podcast that you promised you would record with me.
Whitney, thank you for bringing such passion to the industry. I love these episodes and I learned so much from them. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you.